Aloha! I am coming to you live from Hawaiian Paradise Park. I'm going to make for you today some red chile and some flour tortillas. The red chili recipe that I learned is from my mother-in-law, my ex-mother-in-law, Carolina Torres de Cuesta. She was Carolina Mossman. If any of my friends know Jake Mossman Sr., that was his sister, or is his sister. He passed away, but she's still alive. She taught me a few things in the kitchen because I didn't know how to cook Northern New Mexico food when I was a young girl. I didn't grow up with that kind of cooking, except for in the cafeteria, and our cafeteria lunch ladies were the best. They made some really good food. We were very lucky. But this red chili recipe, she taught me, and she also taught me how to make tortillas. I met her son when I was 15. We got married when I was 17. And I think she taught me these things like right away when I first started hanging out with her. I'd go sit in her kitchen and she'd tell me stories about the cuesteños. And I would listen, and then I would learn from her in the kitchen. And her kitchen always smelled wonderful. And she always had chile or something going. She never ate, she didn't like chile, but she always had it going. So we usually get our chile from Chimayo. This one actually is hot from Moriarty. Moriarty West, yes, I don't know what it says. Anyway, my ex-husband sends me all my chile. He sends me the hatch green chili and the red chili. And if you don't know, the red chili is actually the hatch chili dried to red and then ground up. And that's got the most incredible flavor. The thing about the hatch chili that is different for me than a lot of chiles is it's not just heat on the tongue. It warms your body up. And it's such a wonderful feeling, especially in the mountains of northern New Mexico. Now we live in Hawaii, and it is a warm, kind of overcast day, but kind of warm. And we still like to eat chile, though. I like to have in the fridge, and tortillas. It's kind of a treat. I don't make them very often. I've been doing more bread and tortillas because my kids have been around, and my older kids, normally I don't eat so much like that, but they like to get filled up. And my son's been working hard outside. He's putting the corrugated plastic to clear on my lanai and trimming trees and doing work. So I want to make sure he has a full belly and he feels good. I love my hito. Anyway, I'm going to make for you, I'm going to start with the flour tortillas, and then we'll move on to the chile while these set up. So I use organic unbleached white flour, and I use aluminum-free baking powder, and I will put the ingredients in the description or in the comments later on. I should do it ahead of time, but I don't. So anyway, so then we have, hi Linda, hope Ayla's watching. She can learn how to make you some tortillas. So we use the aluminum-free baking powder, salt, and then we use, you can use shortening, oil, lard, whatever. I have lard. I also sometimes use fat drippings from my bacon. Those, I keep those in the refrigerator. Here in New Mexico, we just keep a coffee can by the stove. But here we keep them in the fridge because you see how quickly it melts. Actually, there's some on there from earlier. Anyway, I like it better with lard or fat. Lard is fat, but I like it better with fat because it just has a better flavor. And people that say that bacon will kill you, whatever. My children's great-grandmother lived to be 98 years old, and she ate bacon probably every day of her life. Granted, that woman chopped wood till she was probably 85 years old. But, it's not, I think it's about moderation, how we eat. Yes, we want to balance our foods with fruits and vegetables and get a good workout and exercise to burn that fat and stuff off. Also, we don't want to be eating animals that are fed with antibiotics and stuff like that. So I get local grass-fed beef, non-antibiotic, non-hormones, and then, like I said, the organic flour, unbleached, unprocessed. So here we go. We're going to do flour. I had to kind of figure out the ingredients because my mother-in-law she just showed us by just a little of this, a little bit of that. Taza here, taza there, you know. Anyway, so here we go. I'm going to do 4 cups of flour. Uno. We teach the kids how to speak Spanish when we do recipes. Dos. Although my babies, the kikis, are sleeping right now. Nice when they both take a nap. Little one is really tired. He had a long nap this morning. He slept in till 7 o'clock this morning, which usually he's a 5 a.m. riser. Tres. Uno más. For Ella. Cuatro. She says, she's trying to learn how to roll her R's. Cuatro. So we're going to mix our dry ingredients together first. And then it's going to be about 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Uno, dos. Everybody makes theirs a little bit different. That's okay. Variety is the spice of life, right? We all have different ways of doing it. My mom used to make her tortillas with oil when we were kids. Anyway, and 2 teaspoons of salt. I don't get too heavy on the salt. Not heaping teaspoons. And then I'm going to mix those dry ingredients together. Get it all mixed in. And then you can add in your fat or your lard, which I think I'm going to just use bacon fat. It's about 2 tablespoons of lard or fat. There's 1. 2 tablespoons of lard. And this part, you got to get your hands in there to get it nice and crumbly. Just work it through. You want your masa to get crumbly. It might need a little bit more lard. I want it to be like a little bit crumbly. I don't know. I was trying to kind of do a guesstimate, but I think it needs a little more. I'm going to go with 3 tablespoons of lard. Nice and crumbly. Mix that together. It's been fun getting in the kitchen and cooking and sharing this stuff and getting some feedback, kind of hearing from people that I haven't heard from in a long time. I love that. It's kind of a neat way to share vibration. I think it needs more. I'm going to go with more like 4. See, I'm trying to make a recipe and kind of guessing about how much I use, but it's about 4. Kind of figure. It's usually I think it's probably about a tablespoon per cup, maybe. Anyway, that should be enough. It's getting nice and crumbly. I don't know if you can tell. Work it through. Work it really well all the way through. And then we're going to add our water a little at a time. We use warm water so it breaks down and melts the fat a little bit into the flour mixture. Okay, that looks good. And then we're going to probably about 1.5 cups of water. I have warm water here on the stove. I have enough. Una taza de agua. And just make a little well and put it in the middle. And then kind of bring it in. My mother-in-law used to let the kids, Lenny and Lissa, when they were small, they could come and help her roll the masa. And if they would eat it, she would tell them, you're gonna blow bubbles from your butt when you fart. So don't eat the masa. But there's nothing wrong with eating this masa, probably. Anyway, there's 1 cup of water, a little more. My hands are getting kind of full of flour. I think we'll do about another half a cup. And work that in. You want it to be a little bit sticky, but not too dry, not too wet. Kind of a texture thing to make it a smooth masa. And you got to work it through. Sometimes it might seem like it's too dry, and then you work it and there's spots that have wet spots going on. Hi, Tupper. Yes, New Mexican food. You know, we like our New Mexican food even way out here on the isla, on the islands. We still love our New Mexican food. Red chile. I have the beans going, so I made some frijoles de pinto beans. And the way I do those is I soak them overnight for 24 hours. You can do 24 to 48 hours. You want to bring any kind of beans when you're doing beans up to a live state. So you soak them to bring them back to live state so that your body can digest them. One of the biggest reasons we get gas is because they're not brought back to a live state. I think it needs a little more water. Just going to splash a little on there. So it was a little more than a 1.5. So we're looking at 4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of salt, 4 tablespoons of lard, fat or oil, and then about 1 3/4 cups, 2 cups of warm water. So now I've got my masa going. It's getting formed together nicely. Anyway, the beans, so yeah, I soak them ahead of time, and then I rinsed them this morning, and I put them in my crock pot on the slow cook. I put them on high to begin with. I add, you can add oil to it or lard. What I do is I get some bacon ends from the butcher, and then I add about 4 cloves of garlic. It's to about a pound of beans, 4 cloves of garlic, and then salt to taste. I don't know, maybe I put a tablespoon of salt in there. Maybe not that much. Maybe it was more like 2 teaspoons. And then I just let those cook all day. They get yummy. I'm going to knead this just for a minute, just to get it smooth. You don't have to do it quite as long as doing bread, because it's more like just blending it together, making sure it gets all together and nice and smooth. Oh, I need a towel under my board. Used to doing this on the other board, but this one's close to the stove, so it's easier to video from. There we go. Get it rocking. You just want your masa to get, your dough to get smooth. So I think I put those beans on about 9 o'clock this morning. I put them on high for a while till they get a little bit soft, and then I turn them down to low so they get just cooked nice and slow all day. I usually use kind of double the amount of water to beans. Like when you measure it and you look at it, it's about the same amount of water on top, above. And you just vary that depending on how juicy you like your beans. But I like a little bit of juice, so when I do refried or refritos, then we have some juice to work with. How pretty is that? Could be a little smoother. Just work that masa till it gets nice and smooth. Do a little exercise. Say a little prayer. So one of the things that I learned about nightshades like Chile and tomatoes and even white potatoes is that they are inflammatory. And I have arthritis, so that's probably not such a great thing. But you can balance it out with things like turmeric, anti-inflammatories. What else is anti-inflammatory? Ginger. But the thing about, like, even turmeric can thin the blood and can be, you have to kind of know your body. So even that could cause problems if you do too much of it. So everything in moderation, and just kind of pay attention to your body when it's speaking to you. It tells you that you're getting too much inflammation. Then you can do like salt soaks. Lotion is great therapy for that. Epsom salt bath. Soak your feet. Eat lots of alkaline veggies, spinach, kale, like that. Anyway, that masa is looking lovely. So I'm just going to let it set and put a towel over it and let it set for like 15 minutes. And then I'm going to work on the chile. So, there, can you see me from there? Can you see what I'm doing? Okay. Turn your stove on high heat. This is Big Island beef. It's grass-fed, no hormones, no antibiotics. And you like it with a little bit of fat. I think this is 85%. You like it with a little bit of fat because you're going to use the fat from the bottom to make your thicken your gravy. Wash my hands. Okay, whenever you handle beef or meat, make sure you wash your hands. Okay, so I turn that on high. I'm going to break that up. If you don't get enough fat from your meat, because this doesn't really look that fatty, but it might be, then you can add a little bit to it. Keep your drippings from your pork. That's what the granitas used to do. And I think that one of our biggest health problems has to do with a lot of processed foods and GMO products and things like that. So anyway, I'm going to add some salt, some garlic powder, and some pepper. Just shake the top, a little bit of salt. You can always add more later. Some pepper. And just kind of go around and cover the whole thing. And then garlic powder. Use garlic and everything. And you brown your meat. You get it nice and brown. Make sure you kind of chop it up. You don't want any kind of clumps. This is nice and loose. Some of them are more clumpy. You just kind of chop them up real good. Make sure that your pieces are small. And that takes a little while to cook and brown. We're going to brown that for a bit. Have a little bit of water. Water with lime juice. Also, lime is alkaline. Helps to bring the body back into a good state. I planted a few more seedlings this morning. I planted some jalapenos, and some cucumbers. What else did I plant? I can't remember. I saw, Linda, that you have blueberries. That's very exciting. I'm going to get some of those too. Wonderful antioxidants. Anyway, so for the chile, we're going to use the red chili powder. We use the New Mexico ground red chili powder, a little bit of flour, and then optional ingredient is a small can of tomato sauce. This is the way my mother-in-law made it, so I do that. I don't do that every time. Sometimes when I do like a different pork recipe, I don't add that. But you can omit that if you like. Kind of gives it a little bit more flavor. Brown that meat. It's creating some nice juices in there. Fats are melting. Smells good. So like I've told you in earlier videos, we don't eat a lot of meat, but we kind of try to keep the balance. I think that there's lots of arguments against it, but I find for myself that I enjoy it. Number one, it's kind of tradition. And number two, I think there's a lot of health benefits to eating meat. I think that in the animal kingdom, animals eat meat. I think that we also eat fruit and vegetables that are live. It takes energy to make energy. And yes, we could get everything from fruits and vegetables, but we're omnivores, and variety is what keeps us going. So, no, don't get too hung up on. I go times where I don't eat meat at all, and then times that I do. But I think that the iron and protein and fats that you get from meat are healthy for you. I don't think that you should overdo it. I don't think you should eat meat every day or at every single meal. I think that's excessive and can cause problems in the body. But if you're being moderate and conscientious about your food and blessing your food, you say prayers while you cook. You always cook when you're in a good mind space, when you feel positive, you give love to your food, because love is the most important ingredient in all cooking. So this meat is getting nice and cooked. There's still a little bit of pink to it. It's okay. Just kind of browning the meat. And then we're going to make our sauce, gravy. This doesn't look like it made a lot of fat, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Northern New Mexico cooking is a lot of fat. You need fat to live through the winter. But like I said, we don't eat like this every day. It's a nice treat. Nice treat. Okay, that's looking lovely. So I'm going to tilt it so I can kind of see how much fat I have in there. You want it when you tilt it, for it to pool down the middle or down the side, so you have enough grease. Can you see? I don't know if you can see. You want to be able to have enough grease. There's plenty. You want to be able to have enough grease so that when you put your flour in, let me see if I can pull you closer so you can see what I'm doing here. You'll see the stove. Okay. Let me turn the light on here. Okay, so we have a pool of the fat drippings from the meat, and I'm going to add a little flour to get it going. I don't measure this. It's probably about 2 tablespoons, maybe 3 tablespoons. You just kind of want to get a roux going there. Make sure you're mashing it up so you don't get any clumps. Keep the meat back. Get a roux going, and then you get it like a little bit of a pasty consistency. And as that's kind of cooking the flour a little bit, browning the flour, then I'm going to take some of the red chili powder and I'm going to sprinkle it over all of that, so it'll brown a little bit also with that. I just pour in, I don't know, that's probably about half a cup maybe. Just depends on how hot you want it. This is supposed to be hot. So I don't remember. I have a couple bags in the freezer, so I'm not sure which ones are which. My favorite is the chimayo. So you brown that in there, see, so it's cooking that chile and kind of getting the flavor to come out. And you just kind of mush it through there. Make sure the grease is off. And then I'm going to add, let that open up the chile. And you can kind of smell, when you really start to smell it come out, then you know that you're ready to go. And then I'm going to add, yeah, it's opening up. So then I'm going to add the tomato sauce to it. And like I said, you don't have to, you could just go straight to water from that point. But the tomato sauce gives it a little bit of additional flavor. When I do like tamales for my chile, for that, I don't use any kind of tomato or anything like that. You can do roasted tomatoes in those too as well, your enchilada sauce. But I do make my pork chili, I don't usually use tomato sauce. I don't know why I do it with this one. I guess it's just because this is the way she taught me how to do it. So then I'll just use this little can and I'll fill it up with water a couple times. And then work the meat in. We'll add a couple more of those. And then as it cooks, we keep it on low. I fill it up all the way with water. And then as it cooks down, I'll add more water. Work all of that through. Red chile. This is great for Frito pies. Everybody know what Frito pies are? Those are the bomb. In school, they used to always make probably once a week red chili. Every other week you get Frito pies, get green chili enchiladas, red chili enchiladas. We were very fortunate that our lunch ladies knew how to cook. Because I hear horror stories about cafeteria food. And I'm going to add another thing of that water. So I add about 2 of water, and then I'm going to let it cook down. I like to do this in cast iron too. I think cast iron gives a better flavor to your food. It's easier to cook with. Heats evenly. Get iron in your food while you're cooking. It's essential for the blood. You don't have anemia. Helps with painful periods and stuff like that. All right, so we're just gonna get that flame on low. I have it on a low flame, but I'm gonna go a little bit lower. And then I just let that cook. Actually, I'm gonna switch this to the other side because let me turn this off. Let me put this to the back up here. I'm going to move this over so that I can use this spot for my tortillas. Using another cast iron pan. You kind of clean up this area. Got flour everywhere. It's not too hot. You can try to clean up while you're cooking. Okay, so let's move back this way again. And hi, brother. How are you, spirit? Let's see, what are you saying to me? Let's see. Oh. You are letting chili blossom. Oh, here we go. That is the culinary term. When it blossoms or blooms is at its peak flavor. Okay, so I learned blossom. That's what it's doing. I don't know. Terminology. I'm not a chef. I'm not a professional chef by any means. I am a kitchen family cook. I've learned a lot of tricks of the trade. I mean, I did work in some restaurants, prep cooking, and I worked as a pastry chef, assistant pastry chef for a while. So I learned a lot of tricks. I learned tricks from friends and family along the way, but I'm definitely not a professional. Okay, so I'm going to take I have a little bit of flour left from the chile. I'm going to take a little bit of flour and put it on my board. Just lightly. I don't like to work with too much flour when I'm doing my tortillas. Let's see, where's my roller? Here's my roller. I love these rolling pins. It's real small and easy, nice and light. Easy to work with. I'll put a little flour on that too, just to make sure that it doesn't stick. Okay, so I'm going to take my masa and I'm going to set up my rolls. I'm going to do it in half. It should make about a dozen. So, and then half again, half again, 2, 4, maybe more than that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll probably get more than that out of it. Depends on the size that you want. You can go a little bit bigger. But anyway, I'm going to leave the other one not done yet, and then you just kind of roll them up. I'm going to cover them as I go. So you roll them up, and then you just kind of shape them with your hands, round and round and round, just to get that initial round shape going. There's a photograph that we saw of my Aunt Midge. You know, we just found our family through Ancestry, and my mom's aunt, my grandma's sister, Midge. There's a picture of her where she looks exactly like my mom, and she's making tortillas. And so I love that even though we lost a generation of that home cooking, that I was able to learn. We actually moved back to where our family was from. We grew up in Taos, New Mexico. I was born in Los Angeles. My mom had moved us there. She was born in Denver. But she didn't know that our family was from northern New Mexico. My grandma's family, my great-grandma lived in Mora. She was born in Springer, and a lot of those family members were from Albuquerque, Bernalillo area, and northern New Mexico. So I love that we were able to move back to, I need to get my stove going, to New Mexico. And then I married into a family from Cuesta, and I got to learn some awesome recipes. Got to learn how to cook from my mother-in-law. Anyway, this shape's not so great. Sometimes your shape's not coming out right. You can just kind of shape it. And then re-roll it. But it doesn't really matter if they're perfect or not. Their family loves them. So you roll them to about maybe 1/8 of an inch thick, I'm guessing. I don't know. Get that stove nice and hot. When I first started making these, I don't make them as often. When I was married, I made them all the time, and so I had them down really well. When I first started making them, they would come out like states, looking like Texas or New Mexico all square. Oh, that's why I can't see. I love you, brother. Okay, so that chile is bubbling away over there. I think this stove feels good and hot. Kind of feel the heat coming through the pan. Just gonna throw that on there. No grease or anything in there. There's already lard in the tortillas, and there's already lard in there, so you don't need to add any oil or anything. It won't stick to the pan. Okay. So yeah, when I was married, my ex-husband wanted me to cook like his mama. He liked his meat and potatoes and his chile and stuff, and so I learned, and I love doing it. So food has always made me very happy. Sometimes it would soothe the savage beast, so to speak. Panza llena, corazón contento, you know. You kind of check the first one to make sure, see how it looks. And then I'm going to take this towel and use it to cover my tortillas. Let me grab another towel to cover this. I love these white kitchen towels, thin cotton towels. Those are the best. Anyway, it's nice and bubbly, so I'm going to turn it. Oh, it's not quite. Could be a little more brown, but I could turn it again. Anyway, I should have showed you that. I'll show you on the next one. So. And then when they're ready, you're going to put them on a plate, on a towel, and then you just fold them over to keep them covered. And you can store them in a Ziploc or a Tupperware if you have extras, but you always hope you have extras because they're nice in the morning. Or you throw some beans on later, make a little burrito or taco. Anyway. I like for them to get just a little bit like brown spots on the bubbles. Some people like them a little bit more toasty. My ex-husband liked his a little bit more toasty, but I don't like mine too toasty. You can always char them again later if you want to. Stir your chile. Starting to stick. When your chile starts to stick, then you add some more water to it. It's getting, the water's cooking down. I just kind of do one of those small cans at a time. Let it cook down. So this chili will be wonderful today, but I think that any kind of sauce or chili is always best the second day. But you'll have leftovers. And anyway, here we go. Hot, hot, hot tortilla. Put it in the. Okay, I'm going to show you this one when it bubbles, so you can see what it's doing. They get better as you go. You start to get practice. So shape, 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 shape. Shape those tortillas. You know, I find that this is a good way to going live and sharing what I do in the kitchen is a good way to stay kind of social, even though I'm not talking to people directly. Like later on, there's people that comment or whatever, and I'm staying in touch with people that I don't normally stay in touch with. Or I don't know, been very antisocial for a long time. I've kind of been weighed down with the kids. It's felt really difficult. It wasn't something that I wanted or was prepared for. It's not like when you become a mother and you have children. For those of you that don't know, my daughter has been incarcerated. She has some addiction problems, and so I'm raising her children. And we had, when she first went in, I had 3 children. They were 5, 2, and 7 months. And now those kids are 11. How old is she? She's 8 and 6. And none of them live with me. My granddaughter, the youngest of those 3, lives up the hill with her father and grandmother, and then The other two live in New Mexico with their fathers, and I have the two babies. And so, oh, let me show you these tortillas. See how it's getting all bubbly? It's probably, oof, there we go. Those are nice and brown and bubbling up real nicely. Perfect tortilla. And so, anyway, I got custody of the little ones, and I wasn't expecting to raise kids as a 50-year-old woman. Not exactly what we want to be doing with our time. Sometimes I love being a grandmother. I love taking care of them. But it was really hard, and I'm kind of, now that my kids have been around, I'm kind of in a flow. I had some depression for a while. It's hard to do it all day, every day by yourself, but gotten into a nice flow. The kids are here to help. My daughter Jazz has been very helpful with the kids, and it allows me to get stuff done. And so I'm feeling a little better. I'm also taking vanilla CBD that helps my mood every day. I drink it in my coffee or my tea in the morning and sets me for the full day. Okay, so there's another nice, they seem like they're a little bit not so fluffy. Hopefully they'll smooth out a little bit. What's this doing here? Something's blocking me. Put the next one on. Might be a little hot. Turn it down a little bit. Give these a stir. But if I have time to do things that I love to do, like cook and garden, and I like to do crafts and projects, then I'm in a much better spirits. And I think that a lot of people that are not working and stuff right now kind of don't know what to do with themselves. Like my son, when this first started happening, I think it kind of hit him. He didn't know what to do with himself every day, and he didn't want to be, working in the garden and stuff like that at first. But then, now that he's out there working and doing stuff and finding other things to do with his time besides going to his job every day, he's a little more fulfilled and satisfied. So we just find things to keep ourselves busy. When people say they're bored, I don't understand that. I never get bored. There's always something to do. There's always something to do. You can cook, you can clean, you can make projects. You can make projects out of anything. And I don't know. There's all kinds of things. If you like to paint, if you like to do paper mache, if you like to do, I like to do like topiaries, plant. I do like coconut husks or a piece of driftwood, and I put moss and put my orchids, and I make little plant decorations. I like to make macrame. I like to crochet. But now this is a perfect time to be learning how to do different things too. There's lots of, and plus there's YouTube, and you can learn so many things. So it's a perfect time to expand your horizons a little bit, learn a new craft, learn a new trade, learn something else. Because the world that we know is changing. And hot, 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 hot. Whew. Those are lovely. Okay, so we're going to take the first one. They're kind of soft enough. I'm going to break that open, give it a try. Those are good. Oh, I'm going to stay here rolling tortillas. So again, I made for you today. I have the beans over there cooking. They're frijoles. I used a pound of beans. Soak them overnight so that they become a live food, so that you don't get so gassy. I added to that some bacon pieces from the butcher and some 4 cloves of garlic. I just peel them and throw those in there. About a couple teaspoons of salt. Cover it double with water, and I let it sit in the crock pot. I go over there and stir it every little while. Kind of let it cook all day long. I go high and then to low. And then I made red chili, and I'll put the ingredients in the comments. And I made also tortillas. So I hope that you try these at home. And it's not too difficult. I just want to kind of share things that to me are pretty simple. It takes a little bit of practice sometimes, but give it a shot. The worst that can happen is you have some crackers or something for tortillas. But they're still good, and you learn every time you cook, you learn something new. So, oh, now I got crispy. Let me turn it down a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to keep cooking. You guys have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you are. I love you. Aloha. Thanks for joining me in Heaven's Magic Kitchen. Ahui ho.